Alright, so this is the final tutorial video for SketchUp. So by now you should have some shed. You can see that we have our stone veneer here. We have those custom stone types that we pulled from Google Images, as well as that wood as well. And a nice door, windows, and our roof with the tiling as well. So this final video is going to revolve around adding things, downloads from SketchUp. So a lot of people actually generate a variety of different images from SketchUp and different models that you can actually download directly into your own, which is kind of a neat feature. And if you guys are going to create rooms inside of your house, that's one of the features that we'll have to be able to know how to use. The second is this layers option here. And so layers will actually allow me to look into your house so I can see exactly what you've created without having to delete any of your walls or any of those pieces. So let's start first with our layers piece here. So if you look to the default tray right now, I have layers highlighted already in there, but I'm going to go ahead and exit out and show you guys how to get that in your tray without, if it's not already there. So if you start here, I'm going to go along the taskbar up here and go to Window. And in Window, you'll see something that says Default Tray. So once I get the default tray opened, there's a checkbox where I can put layers in. And so if I check layers, it's going to pop up right here. So what's really important is that this layer 0, I'm not going to mess around with at all. So I'm going to leave layer 0 exactly how it is. I'm not going to change anything about layer 0. So that's just a really good base point to start with. So anything I do from here is I'm going to use this button right here and I'm going to add different layers that are going to tell me what each part is that I'm removing. So for example, I'm going to click that plus button and I'm going to have a layer added. I'm going to start with the roof. Okay. So that dot on layer 0 should always be there as well. So I'm not messing around with layer 0 at all, leaving that dot in there. Not changing anything to layer 0 at all. All I've done so far is add this second layer that's called roof. And so what we're going to do from that point is we're going to highlight everything in my roof, all parts of that design in that roof, and add that all to a layer. So before I do that, I've already grouped all this together. So I'm going to show you how to do that group piece first. So I'm just going to ungroup it right there. It's called Explode. I know, pretty fun. But before you create a layer, you want to put everything into that same group. So you can see I have all these different sides that are highlighted, and as I highlight them, you can tell that it's not all one big group. So to do that, there's a couple ways you can do that. So if I drag from the bottom right, so you see how I start in the bottom right here and I drag to the left. And if you look at the box that I'm creating, you can see those dashed lines. So those dashed lines actually pick up everything that's in that box, whether I get all of it or not. So if I go from the bottom right to the top left here, and I get those dashed lines, it's grabbing every line, even if it's not fully included. You'll see that's different if I start in the top left and go to the bottom right. Any line that's not fully within that box doesn't get highlighted. So you can see if I'm trying to highlight this roof, for example, and I start here, you can see that the very top of the roof is not included in my box. So as I let go, it's not going to select any of that. If I do the same thing starting on this side, right, create that same box, the top of my roof is still not included, it's going to pick that up anyway. So it actually matters in SketchUp which way you draw your box. So if you're going from right to left, it grabs everything. If you're going from left to right, it only grabs what's fully contained within there. So one way to grab that is to just get everything in that box. I always verify and check that I've picked up all the lines that I want to, right? And I can just draw a box and select everything in there. Another way, if it's a little harder to do, and you'll notice as you're creating some of your rooms, it gets a little more challenging to grab just the lines you want with just a really simple box. So what you want to do is you can click, and if you hold Shift, you're going to see that little plus or minus sign pop up, and you can go ahead and just select all the different pieces that you want while holding Shift. and it's going to pick up all of these lines. This process is a little more time consuming for sure, and oftentimes you'll forget to grab certain pieces or certain lines that are really important, but it gets you there all the same. So whichever your preferred method is, you can also remove clicks. So let's say I accidentally, while I was clicking, I click on this wall. You can see that's blue highlighted, but that's not part of my roof. So I want to deselect that. While I'm holding Shift, I can go ahead and click on that, and it will either select or deselect that line. So you don't have to start completely over if you pick up a line or a face that you don't necessarily want. Just hold Shift and either add that line or remove that line. I'm kind of partial to the select. I find that if you get a good handle on how to select things, it usually grabs everything that you want without forgetting any of the lines that are in there. So I just selected my entire roof. I'm going to right click on that roof and I'm going to make it a group. And you'll see you have kind of this box over your roof now. And so I have this all nice and grouped exactly the way we want it. And with it selected, you'll see on the right side it says Entity Info. Again, if you don't have this window in your tray, all you have to do is go to Window, Default Tray, and make sure Entity Info is selected. And so now that Entity Info is up here, you can see that there's something called a layer right here. So if I go to this drop-down menu, it's going to show me all the layers that I've created so far. So right now I have layer 0. Remember, we're not touching layer 0 at all. Don't put anything in layer 0. Don't remove anything from layer 0. We just leave that all alone. But I have one group in my model, my roof, and I want to add that to the roof layer. So I'm going to say Add to the layer of the roof. And now it's in that layer. So now we'll see if I go down here and I check this check mark by visible, I select that and it's going to deselect my roof, so now I can look directly into my SketchUp house. So in this example, it's your shed that you created. So I can see directly into my shed, and if I want to see the roof again, I just select visible and that layer pops right back on. So it's really simple. It's really helpful when I'm looking around in your house and I just want to find certain rooms, or I'm checking in, and it makes it a lot more straightforward for me to look and observe all the really cool things you've added to your house. So what you guys are going to do is you'll have one layer for your roof, and then you'll also have a layer for your walls. So you would just do the same thing. I would select all of this, add that to my walls layer, and it works exactly the same. So now I have my walls and I can take my roof out. Okay. With your walls, when you guys do yours, you'll want to be a little more careful. I would maybe just grab certain walls. So for example, I'll delete this layer and I'll show you the one that you guys should be doing. But walls, specifically when you guys are doing your walls, I just want you guys to grab your side walls so I would be able to look into your house really quickly. So I'm going to group that. I'm going to add it to my walls layer. And you'll see now just my walls are going invisible. That's what I'm looking for when you guys create it. Don't make your whole house kind of vanish. But that's the layers piece, and now you have your layers completed. And so the second part of this video is going to show you how to actually insert different things into your SketchUp house. Sorry. So if you go right here to Window, that same place we were at before, you can go to something that's called the 3D Warehouse. And in the 3D Warehouse, you're going to see a whole bunch of different images. So you can search pretty much for whatever it is that you want. So let's say I'm making my bedroom and I want to find a really cool bed. So I'm just going to search bed, and you're going to see all of these things are going to populate up. So we have a bunch of beds, we have a girl's bed, a double bed. So you can pick whichever one of these that you want, and you'll just select and download that bed. Go ahead and accept those terms, and we're going to say, yes, we definitely want that loaded directly into our SketchUp model. And you'll see it's going to just set it right there on my mouse. So now I have this bed, and I can go ahead and if I have my roof and my walls, I can slide this into my shed. And now I have a bed in my shed. Bed in the shed. Sounds like Cat in the Hat, huh? But once I have that there, I can continue to add just different things from the 3D warehouse, whatever I find really interesting. And so there's no limit to stuff you can add from the 3D warehouse. It is really important, and something that's really going to help you guys out is if in this layers piece, that's why I showed you this layers piece first, you're going to see that this furniture has a layer selected already, and it's going to create it. What I like to do is when you're working in SketchUp, each thing that you download is going to slow your computer down. So as I download more and more items, SketchUp is going to work slower and slower and slower. One way to prevent this from happening is if this is already created in a layer, just uncheck that and make it not visible. So that way your computer doesn't have to load it every time. If you need to check to see where that bed is, and let's say I'm trying to add a desk right next to it and I have to see where this bed is, that's more than fine. Just uncheck it for a moment. But the more stuff you keep invisible, the faster your computer is going to run. When you guys get really frustrated is when this computer is just going so slow. And it's because you have too many 3D models in there that are really complicated, and it really slows your computer down. So make sure you just uncheck these visible, or uncheck this box and make it invisible, and it's really going to speed it up. If you get a model that, let's say this didn't actually come in a layer already. So I'm going to show you how to just add all of those pieces into a layer. So if I have my bed here, I'm going to select my bed, right, and we're just going to do the same thing. I would suggest that you add everything to what I'm going to call downloads. So if you have a layer that's just called downloads, and if I have multiple downloads in here, so first let's remember I have this item selected. We're going to go to layer, I'm going to put it in downloads. Now this item is in downloads and I can check and click that off whenever I need to. As you get stuff put exactly where you want to, I would just continue to add all of those downloads to your, let's see if I can find where my downloads went. Oh, there it goes. I would just continue to add these downloads to your layers, your downloads layers tab. And it'll really help and make it a lot easier to keep your computer running quickly. You'll see that it takes a while to download sometimes. Yes, I want to download that. Load directly into my model, just like we did last time. Have a table now. And you'll see that this table actually doesn't have a layer associated with it. So I'm just going to go ahead, once I place this, I'm going to add it into the downloads layer. And when I click this downloads, both of those will vanish. So that's really what I'm looking for. You want to be able to quickly move and remove these downloads. And it makes it really easy for you guys to work in SketchUp and make sure your computer is running as fast as it should. That's all for this tutorial. If you have questions, make sure you ask.